in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
You know, the word corruption is a word that we hear used a lot. Sometimes it's used as an excuse or an explanation, anyways, as to why things are a certain way in certain societies. They say, hey, the government in Africa are corrupt. They say, hey, the judicial system in Mexico is corrupt. If you go over there, you cannot get justice. However, we want to break down what this means exactly. Can we say a whole society is corrupt, perhaps vis-a-vis the point of view of another society? Is that what's going on here? Are the all of the people in the society corrupt? What does this corruption thing mean, and why is it so sticky? Why do we keep hearing African governments are corrupt? Oh, corruption in Africa. Blah, 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 corruption. Blah, 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 but for the corruption. This is something that we do hear a lot of, right, Dr. Polymath?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think that this idea of corruption, first we have to explain what the word even means, because there's no point here trying to guess what it means. Because, like you said, one culture might view corruption one way, another culture might view corruption a different way.
And we're not going to just leave it there. And we're not even going to start with that, because that very statement itself sounds annoying to me. Whenever anybody says, oh, one person looks at it this way and the other person, I'm like, just shut up, okay? Tell me what you're talking about. I don't want to hear about that it's two ways. Everything has multitude of sides you can look at it from. Oh, if you look at the bicycle from this way, it looks like it's like, I know.
Yeah. But what are we looking at, though? We still know that there's a form of something that we both know is a bicycle, and that's what we're talking about. 100%.
100%. So what is the shape of this thing, generally speaking? So maybe we could start this way, okay? Because I'm challenging the whole question of that there is a segment of society that is corrupt. Now, I'm going to take a step in here before we state something such as, well, let's build it upon it organically. Some people say, hey, you know what? The government system is not suited for the society, right? Some people say, hey, Africa, the institutions are corrupt because these are not the institutions that naturally developed or would have naturally developed if you let time go, run uninterrupted, if the people were uncolonized. And these are foreign institutions and foreign systems. They don't suit the people. Now, does this begin to kind of show us that, hey, from the point of view of the outside people, the people whom brought in these institutions, that the malfunctioning of these institutions is what is seen as corruption? Yeah, we going down the right path here?
Yeah, I actually do think that you have a point here, because you can only judge something based on a reference point that you already understand how it functions. So yeah, these people or systems are corrupt because they're not functioning as was intended. However, it's more than that. There is an objective component to this. The fact is, the methods by which they are corrupt are universally seen, even by those who exist within those systems, as somewhat wrong or ill-maintained, ill acted on, or just simply corrupt.
Hmm.
So,
So
both are true.
it is objectively non-functional, and it is, at least from the self-report of the people on the ground, unsatisfactory, right? So we're not saying, hey, you're looking from the outside and calling these people corrupt, but the people in there are just fine with it. No, the people are not fine with it, and it is, perhaps one could say, objectively, functionally incorrect. It is not functioning, by certain objective standards of what the thing is supposed to be doing, what the institutions are supposed to be doing, what the, shall we say, governments are supposed to be doing, right? So far
Right.
we've said that, hey, you have to have a reference point, and you're going to look at this particular set of institutions, let's say in Africa, the Africa we're focusing on here, and we're going to say that they're ill-suited, they're not working right, right? Now, it seems to me that we're going to say something such as, depending on the mode a society is operating in, okay, it's going to look at another society and say, hey, there's a lot of corruption there. So far, we've only said that if you look at Western style institutions, Western style democratic, liberal democracies, and constitutional governments, republicanism, right, federalism, and all that kind of stuff, that it's not well suited for Africa, which is more of a tribal thing. So again, I'm talking about shapes of societies. One society takes a form whereby constitutional governments and so on and so forth have naturally developed out of monarchies and blah, blah, blah. And another is more suited to something more tribal, perhaps more nepotistic, right? And when you look at something tribal and nepotistic, from the point of view of constitutional governments, it looks very corrupt, right? And also, when you are in a society that it's supposed to be functioning, let's say you're in Africa, and Africa is supposed to be functioning, there's no other way of getting the services, right? It's not like you can go to the local traditional government council, right? Those exist, but they don't have power, right? They don't have real power. So the idea is the only way you can get the services and the only way society runs is supposed to be through these Western instruments, right? But they don't work. Hence, people are dissatisfied. Go ahead. What's the point here?
The point here is actually that we do have to be careful of which things that we call corrupt and which ones that we do not. An example is this. You might need to pay someone, a police officer or any service provider, a little bit of a tip in order for them to do their job faster. Now people might call it corrupt because the exponentialism involved. So let me give you an example. You go for a driving school. You've paid for everything. However, they only give you like 10 minutes of driving time instead of giving you like 30 minutes. And they do it really late if you don't pay the extra tip. But when you pay the extra tip, you have pretty much a VIP treatment. Now, on one hand, this is not corruption because America and Europe is called VIP.
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just borging a little bit. But perhaps while you see what that means or what it is, you're basically saying, hey, there's a situation whereby there are levels of service, right? If you go in there and you don't give them the little, I think in the Arabs call it bakshish. There particular, bakshish. I think it may not be Arabic, right? I don't know. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, bakshish.
Yeah, of course. Every country has a different name, but yes.
Okay. So if you don't pay that, you're not going to get the service in a timely manner. Perhaps you may not get the service at all.
Yeah, 100%.
So, however, in the West, right, it's going to be clearly stated that, hey, for service level A, right, the basic service level, you're going to wait 2 weeks. But if you want it expedited, you pay this. If you want it super express, you pay this, right? $10, you wait for 2 weeks. $50, 5 days. You give us $200, we'll get it for you tomorrow, right? It is explicitly stated, and it is systematically held, or shall we say carried out, right? But in these societies, no one explicitly tells you that you got to pay the little bit of the extra in order to get the service. But shall we say the principle is still the same? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. The principle is the same, but as you said earlier, these are nepotistic, nomadic sort of cultures. So they're not in for the global, big federal government systems. In fact, this will be a libertarian wet dream.
So when people talk about libertarianism, when they talk about, well, freedom, right? Free transaction between individuals, right? This is what is going on in a lot of these societies that we call corrupt, in the sense that it has come down to the individual level, okay? And people do things, shall we say, willy-nilly. Things are not systematic, they are not bureaucratic. So it seems like on our journey so far, we've been able to kind of clear out the weeds. And on the one hand, we're seeing something emerging which we call nepotistic and tribalistic, right? It's more of a, hey, me and my brother and my cousins against everyone else. And then if it's me and my cousins and my neighbors against the next city over, and that kind of a thing, it's always very situational. There is no systematic bureaucratic system that says, hey, it's always $10 for the 2 weeks, always $50 for 5 days, and always $200 for express. It's always depending. Now, you say that the wet dream part, I understand that, because people want things to be, shall we say, granular, decentralized. They want a lot of experiments going on at the same time, right?
They say that, but I don't know if
They
that's
say
really
that.
what they want.
I know, yes.
These countries are decentralized. I don't know if that's exactly what they're going to want once they find things like this way. For example, cryptocurrency. They keep talking about decentralization, and I get the logic. You don't want there to be Western Union taking your money when you transfer into different countries, etc. Or, however, how do they actually deal with this when you're trying to implement things? People can trick you. People can, scam you, and they don't want to be scammed. So they want a decentralized system that works on trust or trustlessness, I guess. So that's an interesting one. But as you can already see, cryptocurrency is being regulated by governments. So it just seems like there's always going to be a central organizing body in order for things to run smoothly. Otherwise, you have a lot of this disorder.
And this disorder is perceived generally as corruption. This disorder does indeed have the dysfunction associated with it, but we're looking at it saying, hey, you're going to choose one. If you're choosing more of the decentralized, shall we say, right, thing, the only way in which it exists naturally is in these tribalistic, nepotistic societies. We have not gone the other way, and perhaps there is a process that we could go through and then create a more, shall we say, well-functioning decentralization. But so far, the only place we see decentralization is in the places that we call corrupt, right? As a matter of fact, you could just take the word of, remove corrupt and put decentralization, and it'll completely explain what's going on with these people, where you never quite know whom you need to pay or what you need to do in order to get things done. Ladies and gentlemen, remember what we're saying is this, right? We're not saying, okay, that there is anything right or wrong with different levels of service in this particular instance, this case that we're using. We're not saying that there's anything wrong with saying, hey, you get level of service A, you get level of service B, you get level of service C. But when it is centralized and it is written down somewhere, we like that. We say, no, it is not corrupt. We say it is functional. But we may complain about centralization and the bureaucracy, though. We don't like that we have to wait in line in the DMV. So let me ask you this. The people in the West, the people in centralized, shall we say, bureaucratic societies, don't they secretly wish that when they go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, okay, yes, that's you listening, you in the chat.
Like they're
when
very
they go to the Department of, what'd you say?
They're very explicit. The way they talk to the cashier lady, telling her how she's the cause of all their problems and that she can just do it and process, even though they paid their insurance late or whatever.
So again, just so that everyone is following, because it may not, may not be completely clear here. The idea is you go to a bureaucratic place, things are centralized. There's a fee, there's a line, there's a system, there's a form you got to fill. You get to the front of the line and they say, hey, you did not fill form A15. You got to fill form A15. There is no other way to get around this. We, okay, say, hey, why can't you just make an exception for me? But you see, this is the kind of thing that goes on in Africa, in decentralized systems, nepotistic systems, where we say, hey, why just make an exception for me? But if you institute that kind of a system where everybody says, hey, why don't you make exceptions for me? Then all of a sudden, form A4 disappears, for A15 disappears, and it becomes a very, shall we say, nepotistic. I don't know whom to pay. I don't know what the grades are. I got to give the backsheesh, but I don't know how much the bribe is. I don't know whom to bribe, to get things I want. But I can get what I want if I push the right buttons. But now it's not a centralized set of buttons anymore, right? Isn't that what's going on? We got to pick one. We can't have both.
Yeah. Humans are just not ready for complex, nuanced governing systems. Usually we're more suited for one or the other. And at the end of the day, what will happen is, let's say we end this so-called corruption in these African or so-called West Eurasian countries, such as, the so-called Middle East, is that you end them, and then they actually going to complain more because now they have to go through the bureaucracy. And because a lot of these cultures are nomadic, right? They want to engage with nature as it is rather than some abstract future state like the West does, right? Because more sedentary sort of cultures, they prepare for the future in a certain kind of way. They're more sedentary. These nomadic cultures, they're more like, okay, we'll just move. So if you kind of force them into submitting to bureaucracy, who knows what will happen?
100%.
Yeah, I don't want to mention specific things, but we had some kind of spring in one of the North African countries where they were like, "Oh, democracy, yay!" Okay, what happened afterwards? It's anyways, that's a whole different conversation.
Good. So far, we have, rather than saying corrupt versus non-corrupt, we have said, hey, either you have bureaucracy or you have what you in a bureaucratic society calls corruption. Okay? So again, either you have bureaucracy, right? The DMV, the IRS, the centralization of fees, the centralization of you push this button and you get this outcome, or you get what you call corruption.
But let's say you have a Nigerian philosopher or psychologist. They may actually say that the system in the West generally oppresses children. And they will actually say that's now a corrupt system. I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you got a single mother of 3 kids because she didn't fill in this form, or she didn't go through this particular application, or because of this one thing missing, maybe she's a refugee or whatever it is, the kids are denied certain access to certain things that they need. Why? Because the forms weren't filled properly. So they would argue and say that actually, no, the Western system is corrupt because they allow people to suffer when it's just basic issues. So let me give an example. The issue with the sedentary-based culture, so more bureaucratic culture, is that they're slow to change meaning. Let's say you implement a new strategy. You realize that implementation of that strategy is not really effective. In a nomadic system, they'll just change immediately to suit the new needs of the situation. In these other cultures, though, in the West, it will take maybe 2 elections before they reset that previously set condition. That could be argued that is the highest order of corruption from the other end.
So, if and when Americans say, hey, you know what, Nigeria is very corrupt, which is true, again, in the sense that decentralization, and you don't quite know which button to push to get the outcome that you want, you need to get, nepotism, tribalism, everything is very close to the vest, close to blood, right? My blood, my family, my thing, my kin, right? When things are that way, and then people say, hey, when writ large, look at the big picture, this is corrupt, it's not functioning well. Some people push back, as you say, and say, hey, the West is corrupt. Look at you doing this and that and the other, and you invade other countries, you occupy, you do this and that and the other. Now, here comes the problem with these kinds of words that are too big and that can be used in both ways. How can both people be right? They don't even seem to be talking about the same thing, right? How can you use corrupt to mean this kind of decentralized, nepotistic, I got to bribe somebody, I don't know where the levers are, I got to have special knowledge, nothing is written down. And how can that mean corruption? And at the same time, it also means corruption that you invade people. Like, we need to
Yeah,
clean up the language, right?
100%. You know, it's interesting because I wanted to say that the words that we can use instead is it functional to the needs of the population or not? I would say that's the main thing, you know, when we're using words like corrupt. So the way the West runs, does it meet the requirements of its populace? Also, the way that most African and nomadic cultures live, does it meet the? And one could argue and say, well, these nomadic cultures want freedom. So these are the true libertarians, right? The things that Americans keep saying that they have and or want, in reality, I've been to Africa recently, and I will say that there's a lot more freedom in Africa than there will be in America of being and living. Now, America has protected freedoms, right? But when you're talking about actual freedom, like, trust me, Africa
You've lived
is actually
lived
free.
both places, and
Yes.
one of the first thing that struck me, because I grew up in Africa, right? I grew up there, and my eyes have always been open for a very long time. So when I say I grew up in Africa, I mean I grew up in Africa, right? My eyes were open while I was growing up, and when I came over here, I saw this very distinct difference that you said about the freedom. And some people don't tend to understand it completely, but it's very simple. It means that basically in the West, if I want to get up tomorrow, bake some chapati bread, right? Bake some naan bread, bake some what is the Filipino
Angela,
one?
or
Bake,
the Philippine one.
injera is not quite baked, but yeah, sure. But that'll be I won't be able to sell injera bread over here in the Bay Area, not easily. But if I want to bake some I forget the Filipino one now, but it's a very nice it's a nice name.
I think it's
like
Pinoy.
the meat pie. What?
By the way, we usually call them Pinoy.
Pinoy. That's one of them too. I forget the other one. But anyways, I'm gonna bake something and I'm gonna sell it in front of my house. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bake something and I'm gonna start selling it in the front of my house. Is that gonna go well in America? Is that gonna
No,
go well in UK? Is that gonna
health
go
and
well
safety
in Belgium?
codes.
No.
Health and safety codes. Hawking in the street is kind of illegal-ish unless you get special licenses for special
The
events.
neighbors are not gonna like it either, right?
Yep. Yeah, the
The
neighborhood watch is
neighbors are
going to
gonna
come for you.
call the centralized authorities to make sure that the
Yep.
regulations, which are clearly stipulated, are followed. The bureaucracy.
It's worse in the UK. You can't even just go and build your own house the way you want to. You have to, and I mean aesthetics wise. Not even
We have
functionality.
homeowners associations in America as well. Now it's not centralized, like probably it's a government thing in the UK, but over here people agree that we're gonna live in this community and we're gonna have certain standards, right? And it's called a homeowners association and HOAs. Yes, HOAs are filled with Karens telling you what you can and cannot do. So basically, the freedom is that in Africa, I can get up, I can bake those damn things and start selling it in front of my house tomorrow, right?
100%.
That's the kind of freedom. And I can start cutting hair. I can start writing. I made a video talking about how I doubled my money. I did not have to tell anybody about that taxi cab. In other words, yes, there's some basic registrations that I have to do. But trust me, if I wanted to start a taxi cab company in America compared to in Ghana, it'll be 100% different. All kinds of regulations and things and insurances and registrations and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, Uber had to overcome so much in order for it to be legal in America, for example. Like, they went and just did it, but they had to overcome so many codes, so many issues of practices, because basically they just went in there and took over the taxi industry, which has a really large control over regulations and everything. So
let me play something by Louis Farrakhan talking about corruption. Someone said, oh, Africans are corrupt, and then he did the whole pushback of, oh, no, you are corrupt. But the point is, that is wrong. Okay, when somebody says, hey, Africa is corrupt, you say, yes. And go, well, what do you mean? I said, well, it is decentralized, it is more nepotistic, it's not as bureaucratic, right? And what we just described, the frustrations that we described with me selling my paninis or whatever, right, is bureaucracy. Okay.
Yep. And just before you play the video, I really do want to come for the libertarians. Guys, you know, Africa, even though it's more libertarian-esque, is still very government big compared to actual libertarian system. So if you can imagine that and the way things are, I mean, how are you going to agree to build these roads? You know, people have arguments, but the evidence is clear. You can't be against communism by, hey, it's never worked before, and then at the same time be like, well, yeah, libertarian will work. It's it's interesting.
Libertarianism doesn't work. So let me say this. There's, however, not a however. We all know about
It
Ayn
doesn't
Rand.
work for them. It doesn't work for the
Yes, exactly. We
well
all know about
functioning.
Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand's system works, okay? And you're like, whoa, what do you mean? You just said libertarianism doesn't work, right? Ayn Rand's system, if you read Atlas Shrugged, was not for the masses. It was for the
Right.
top 0.0000001% competent, intelligent people to leave the rest of you and go do their thing in a hidden place somewhere.
Yep.
That's
Actually,
what Ayn Rand's system was. Not,
actually a
let
show.
everybody be free.
There's actually a show on Netflix. It's called 3%. Basically, you have this place. It looks like Brazil. Only 3% of the people, when they reach a certain age, they can go and do these tests. If they pass these tests, it shows that they're 3%. So there's IQ, there's physical stuff, there's strategy, whatever, all this stuff. Now, these people also kind of castrated in a way, like, made infertile, should I say, instead. So that obviously then the next kids in the generation, they're going to grow up with the genes from their, grandparents, etc., who are low level. So to enter this high level society where everything is cheap or rather free and just good, and you have to pass the test to be the 3%. The rest of the world lives in this crappy dystopia. So this is an example of a system that operates by choosing competent people that will make it work the way that it's designed. Because if you look at it, everything is designed for the masses. You can't make stairs for only 0.1% of people. It won't work effectively.
Yeah, so decentralization and having these independent so-called agents, these homo rationales, or whatever you want to call them, these mythical beings that are rational and just making trade with each other and allowing to build the roads and do this, that, and the other. It's a tough thing. And even if you read Atlas Shrugged, you kind of see, it's kind of a caricature like this society that they have of physicists with six-packs and shit like that. It's like, okay, but if you do have those people, shall we say, a society of saints can work either communistically or libertarian-like, because they both are very similar when it comes down to it. If in order for communism to work, I would say that it still has to be a small group of saints, right? And in order for libertarianism to work, small group of saints. Saints being used as a proxy here for just highly competent, highly moral people who can get ish done. Otherwise, it's not going to work ever. Neither one will work. But let me go ahead and play this here just before we get into some of the more particulars about what exactly it is we mean. What exactly, in a granular day-to-day fashion, what do you see in a society that's nepotistic, right? In a society that's decentralized, in a society where you don't have Form A15 at the DMV, but if you pay the lady the right money, then you get your license, right? And it's not written anywhere which lady to pay or how much it is. You just got to know people, which brings in the whole kind of, it's a different kind of society when you got to know people, right? Information flows differently and all those other kinds of things which we'll talk about now. But let's just play something from Farrakhan about the whole corruption thing, him pushing back in a way which I don't think was quite productive, but let's see.
Farrakhan, you go to Nigeria, which is, if not the most corrupt nation in Africa, and it is, it could be the most corrupt nation in the world, Minister Farrakhan.
Oh, and now, Mr. Wallace.
It is the most corrupt nation that I have ever covered. I've been there 25 years ago, and I've been there as recently as last year.
Fine. So what? 35 years old. That's what that nation is. Now, here's America, 226 years old. You love democracy, but there in Africa, you're trying to force these people into a system of government that you just have accepted. 30 years ago, black folk got the right to vote. You're not in any moral position to tell it.
Okay, so yes, this is something that we mentioned earlier. You're saying, hey, a system of government which is not suited for them, and hey, let me point out some of the things that you're doing wrong too, and so on and so forth. So the things that he's saying here are things we already discussed. Let's see.
Tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut. Wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth. No, I will not allow America, or you, Mr. Wallace, to condemn them as the most corrupt nation on earth when you have spilled the blood of human beings. Has Nigeria dropped an atomic bomb?
So, again, the issue that I have here with what he's doing is goalpost shifting, right? We over here on YouTube, we know that, right? Isn't this deflection classic deflection 101? This is classic deflection 101. He sounds like a baby mama terrorist right now, right? He sounds like, oh, well, how about this, oh, blah, 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 blah. We've all been in those arguments, right? Where you say something and all of a sudden they see themselves losing the argument and boom, they start throwing everything at you and the kitchen sink. Nigeria is corrupt by the way we just talked about it. We put it in context. We said, hey, nepotism, decentralization. You don't quite know which levers to push. You got to know people rather than know processes. Processes, systems, and bureaucracy is the opposite of what we're calling corruption. And he should have simply said yes, that the systems have not had time to take hold, which he kind of said per se in some kind of a polemical way. The systems have not had the time to take hold and so on and so forth. But start saying, hey, you killed people, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we're not talking about killing people or dropping bombs, okay? We're talking about corruption. I mean, so far, perhaps I don't need to play the rest of it. But anyways, let me play the rest just because I like our friend's rhetorical style. Let's see what else he can pull out of the hat here. As he goes on and on, pushing back on Mr. Wallace.
And killed people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Have they killed off millions of Native Americans? How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral
Oh, he's working
judge?
himself into
I
a frenzy
think you
now.
should keep quiet, because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak. I will speak because I don't have that blood on my hands.
Okay, cool. He's all kinds of moral high ground being taken. But anyways, and any comments on what our friend here, Farrakhan, has to say about the whole you cannot charge Nigeria with democracy or with corruption, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, this stems of actually tribalism. So what I mean by that is in Farrakhan's mind, he's obviously a microphone for his people, for the masses. So he has to go and protect his people. In other words, he's out here trying to make sure that the moral ground isn't lost, because he knows that people will take the corruption argument in a moral way. So he's making it clear that actually, if we're going to go morally, you guys are just as bad, if not worse. It's like the whole black men perceived as thieves or criminals. And then someone will say, well, who is the biggest world terrorist and criminal? In reality, they'll take the slightly more abstract sense. But you see, I do think he has a point here. I think that whenever you have these discussions, why is it that we're not talking about the other discussions with as much realism to it? Why is the other discussion so abstract? Let's say America going to countries, doing what it does, and then coming back. Why is that not a more sort of real discussion that is had on a normal level?
100%. So he is right for pushing back. I would say discussions of this sort are meaningless in both ways, because it's all about power and functionality. If what you're doing is working for your people are not complaining, running out, disorder everywhere, then you do what you do, right? If, as you mentioned, right, which is the case in, let's say, Nigeria, the people are not satisfied with the way the thing works. There is no other place to get the services that government is supposed to provide. Or
let me give you an example
that a society is supposed to have. So so it's not working. So therefore, hey, it's corrupt.
Let me give you an example. I'm not sure if it was Ghana, but I believe it was, where Chinese basically built a mall with prices and regular things. Like, this is how much it's cost, this is where you can get it, and this is what you'll get. Standardization. Yeah, exactly. haggling is actually one of the issues of this corruption. Things are not so exact. Prices don't just exist. You don't see street hawkers with like $10 usually on it. Sometimes, very few times. Most of the time, they want you to start haggling. They put up the price depending on the real time. Again, nomadic cultures like to engage with real time economics. They don't want to do this sedentary projected economics kind of situation. They might be
And
really
the
good day
people, there's
traders.
certain kinds of people, or perhaps certain kinds of extroverts in the West here who love to go and haggle over Persian rugs somewhere, right? That's like their whole dream. They want to go to a place where it's like, oh my God, there's no fixed prices. You just talk to people and you say what you want, blah, blah, blah. That is corruption. Okay. That is what when you come back to the West and you then look back over there to, let's call it the East. That's what you call corruption. Okay. So
Yeah, I think now
we've spent the last 30 minutes, as you know, because it needs to get done that way. You got to wash, rinse, repeat for these concepts to be clear and crystallized. We're saying, hey, you got bureaucracy or you got what you call corruption. And human beings, the way we are, right? We tend to desire whatever is absent, right? So if we're over here in the bureaucratic land, we're like, oh,
Yes.
I don't like the DMV and the bureaucracy and all these lists of things and blah, blah, blah. I want to be in a place more free, more decentralized. I want to cut my own deal. But guess what? When you have that kind of a system, it doesn't work for the masses per se. It doesn't work for everybody.
100%.
It's not very fair because the system has an egalitarian, shall we say, both impulse and effect to it. So, any further comments before we go down into something I want to ask you, and perhaps I could ask you now, in your recent experience in Africa, or let's bring it down to man on the street level, okay? Because we've talked about the concept, we've talked about the government, we've talked about the ways to think about this thing and put neat categories here. Bureaucracy, nepotism, so on and so forth. But how about the man on the street experience? You walking into a hotel, a street hawker, or somebody in Africa, what is the difference between you going to the mall, okay, is somewhere in Maryland, United States, versus you trying to transact in the streets of Nairobi, for example?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. Trying to transact anything in the streets of Nairobi, you're going to have your eyes open. First of all, people are going to sell you anything and they're going to tell you whatever you want to hear in order to buy the product. I've literally seen this. I saw a video recently by this guy called Sabbatical. He's in Nigeria right now and he's asking the people, I want to buy hats. And the person is showing him Rugrat clothes and he's got no shame in his face at all. It's like, you ask for one thing, someone tells you that there's another thing, and it's worse if the thing looks similar and you can't test functionality, because you might get really good deals, but then you're just not sure, is this even what I want? Is it going to work? So if you don't have your eyes open to people trying to pull things over your head, you're going to get so-called scammed several times. However, there are malls in Nairobi, and that's a good thing about Nairobi. If you want to pay American prices and you want to have American sort of expectations, you'll have it. It's everywhere. In fact, some malls look better than most malls in America. So, you'll have that experience, but you're paying the premium because they've already gone through all the selection for you. They've gone through finding all these functional products. They've paid the prices of having to, get subpar things, etc. So if you're in Nairobi, you just have to have your eyes open. I'll give you an example. I managed to get a bed for only $50, like a really nice bed that's been designed really well. The same bed, I was trying on different street hawkers and they were charging me something to $200 or $300. Now, I didn't get scammed. I probably think the guy who sold me this bed probably stole it. Who knows? It's extremely cheap bed. But the point is also, because of this ability and decentralization, you can actually get good deals. So if you've got a good eye for quality, you can make amazing deals.
You got a good eye for quality, you can make amazing deals. Now, O'Shea Duke Jackson, 2 points that he talks about a lot. Number one is the whole foreigner tax, right? You go over there, you're sounding like an American. You're trying to go haggle with this in the streets of Accra. We're not even mentioning Lagos or Nigeria, okay?
Don't
We're
even
going to
try
be
that.
tame. We're gonna be tame. We're gonna say Accra, Nairobi. Don't even go to Nigeria unless you're ready. In other words,
Nah, just don't go. Don't go. They'll call you
just don't go.
Igbo.
Unless you are already very well schooled in the real time dealing with crap and nature red in tooth and claw and all that kind of stuff, don't go over there. And by the way, as I say it right now, I know it's tintillating to some people, right? That are like, ooh, I want the experience of, being in Lagos, the most densely populated black hole in the world. And and
Black
tough it
hole.
out. And it is quite it is quite exciting to be there. But the reason why it's exciting is because over here you have this standardization, centralization, bureaucracy, which we look at and we say it's not corrupt, but it's quite boring. Okay. And then when you look over there, decentralization, no democracy, no, shall we say, bureaucracy, no standardizations. It is corrupt, but if you can wiggle your way, you can get the way through. Now, you've said the bed example, right? What kind of skills do you have to have, or how did you navigate, right? And where did you learn these skills? Or perhaps you visited Africa a couple of times, right? And how did it work out for you? Because one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that you have to know people, right? You have to know people, you have to know languages, you got to know gestures and so on and so forth, because you're not just going to go on an app and say, hey, how do I get X, Y, and Z? And it tells you push this button and you'll get it delivered for this price. It's like, no, there's no such thing. There is no push this button, get anything delivered for any price. It's all people, right? Now, this is a big disadvantage for people who do not do people stuff. Me, for example, I travel to Africa. I'm going to go to Africa next month. I'll be there for 3 whole months, okay? And I have my way that I move, okay? I made a video when I was in Ghana last time, and I said, hey, you got to pay for crap. You pay for security. You pay for peace, okay? You pay for comfort. You pay for a system. Or you maneuver by yourself, right? You go through, you seem to be more of the maneuverer type. You're more of the extrovert type anyways. For me, I just pay. I'm like, where is the safe neighborhood where I don't have to deal with crap? I don't have to deal with silly people trying to blah, blah, blah. I go and I just pay the American prices and I get my outcomes. How do you do what you do?
Right. See, sometimes, I like to jump in the pool and wrestle, because that at least allows some certain skills to develop. So how do I do it? You got to first learn basic things. So let's give some game here. Lesson 1, haggling. You actually need to learn the skill. How do you haggle? Simple. You ask them, how much is this product? They'll say, let's say $150. You say, I'll pay you $75. And then they'll meet you somewhere, like 3/4 of the way, or even a little bit less if you're a good haggler. And also you have to be willing to walk away, because there's so many other people on the street. Then you ask them, what's your final price? What is the real price? The thing is, even if you're American or anything else, at the end of the day, these people want to make a sale. So they'll still give you a product at a much cheaper scale. But the first thing is never accept the price that you're given. And the thing is, you should always be willing to walk away, because there's going to be other street vendors with the same product somewhere along that same street, if not a different street. That's one.
And one thing I've noticed about the haggling is because I grew up in Nigeria again, and also when I went to Ghana recently, because even though, as I said, I pay for X, Y, and Z, but you're still going to have to be in the street every once in a while, right? And maybe you want to buy a cover for your phone, and there's these vendors passing through, right? What I remember growing up, right, and what I saw then was you say, hey, don't accept the price, and also it's expected. You're not supposed to accept the price. You say, hey, you ask them what it is, right? So that they state the price first. Just a simple, basic rule of negotiation that when somebody states a price, they've started losing, right? The first person to start calling numbers have started losing, generally speaking. Again, I know there's many levels of the game, right? Another thing is you got to be able to, there's this kind of emotion that you have to be able to, you have to be like, this thing, like, we're like, how much is this cover of flowers? Like $50. You gotta be like, you know what I mean, right? And they always do it. Women are particularly great at it too. They're like, this, what do you mean? Like, you gotta be, when they say the price, you gotta be able to be like, that's an insult. What do you mean this crap is $5, right? That's just part of it. Okay, if you don't do that, it's not gonna work. I don't know. Am I missing something there?
No, 100%. And there's another point here. Like, okay, so I don't go there with a British or any other kind of accent when I'm going there, right? I put on some Kenyan, Ethiopian, or some kind of Ugandan accent. I can't do a Nigerian accent, so that will fail. It's easier for you to look like you're an expat from a different African country. You won't get quite as highly charged. But if you go there like you're an expat from the West, or rather the global North, you're gonna get like, is it scammed? No, this is just business. But yeah, you're gonna get huge prices.
Mhm. So again, this all speaks to nepotism. The fact that at least the next African country over is closer, right? I can kind of feel like maybe they know the rules and I can get away with too much. Okay. We're talking about the boundaries of ethics here, of what you're allowed to, whom you're allowed to lie to, whom you're allowed to treat in a certain way, whom you're allowed to practice usury on, right?
Listen,
And
if you
in the
can sound like you're
Bible,
from Congo, just sound like you're from Congo. You don't wanna be paying stupid prices for things.
exactly. You want to sound like you're from that particular country or at least from the neighboring areas because that's how things work. You want to sound like you're the guy's brother. Okay. And when you sound like you're the guy's brother, and here's the thing I think that perhaps we're not adequately showing the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that it works. If you actually sound like you're that guy's brother, you'll get a great deal. He might even invite you to his, cousin's wedding tomorrow, and then introduce you to blah blah blah.
Hey, I've
None of it.
invited to a job in Microsoft interview, etc. Because I sound like the guy's brother.
That's exactly what we mean. See, to someone like me, that's just kind of gross and disgusting, right? Oh, maybe not. I'm over. I'm exaggerating. It's not particularly disgusting. It's just I'll chuckle. I'm like, I have my way of doing my thing. I'm not gonna necessarily sound like your brother. You know, I'm not gonna go out of my way to do it. But even I do that. Let me back up. Let me back up. Let me back up. I'm lying. I'm lying. I'm lying. I sound like their brother. Okay. I'm just saying I don't do it at certain levels. Like I'm not gonna be haggling with somebody on some little thing sounding like their brother. But even when I'm trying to do these deals or I'm buying land from somebody to build apartment buildings, best believe I'm trying to sound like their brother. Best believe I'm using look, let me say something. One of the land deals that I'm doing, right? One of the places that I'm building, I'm using a member of the family, a member of my wife's family, as my face. They don't know who I am. They don't know who's buying that land, right? This guy I know has bought land and built houses. Okay. So he has gone through the process. And the process, okay, is quite a process indeed. Things need to be anticipated and blocked because again, there is no list of step one, step two, step three, and then step four, you put the money in escrow, and then step five, it's like, nope.
No,
You simply have to have experience with people who know that, hey, if you don't go to this particular agency and check that this particular name on this particular deed is X, Y, and Z, 6 months before you try to commission the land, they can come and charge you X, Y, and Z for it. There's nowhere where that is written. Okay. You
nope.
don't know that. So I have to use somebody as a proxy, a trusted person who speaks the language, sounds like them, has the same round Ghanaian head, even.
Well, the same head.
So, wow, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to.
sorry, Ghanaians, don't come for me.
Don't. Yeah, but let's now look. Okay, more to the whole point of the man on the street level. What does it feel like to be in a situation where there is no bureaucracy,
Yeah,
no
so
standardizations, and so on and so forth?
let's break a couple things here. For example, this man here, I think he calls himself Romy Peso. This is your average American who's not rich, doesn't really have much money. He's probably got his savings. He's not making that much money, so to him, he's going to be suffering from when he gets a wrong deal more than some people.
More than some people, says you, and then you go mute because you muted thyself. But perhaps I can go ahead and play the video. Because again, okay, we're going to see the aftermath of a situation, the aftermath of a scamming. This one really is just straight up good old scamming. Okay, straight up good old corruption without any admixtures.
But you know, the interesting thing is, I bet that this guy actually sells to the locals a product that works. Usually,
So give us
he
some of the
doesn't.
background. What happened here before we start playing it? What happened before we get to this scene, which we're about to see? What happened?
Right. Yeah. So this guy gives this. So this guy's an agent who procures things. In this case, a bicycle. So he gives him about $300. Don't quote me on the exactness, but it's a substantial amount of money, and the guy's expecting a bike that works to a certain level or standard. Instead, he's given a bike that barely works. So obviously, that's being scammed. I mean, no matter how explicit you are or not, you don't pay someone $300 and get given something that barely moves.
Okay, so let's see what the aftermath of the situation was. All right. He's waiting, presumably for the guy who sold him the bike to show himself. Here's a bike. Here's a bike.
Very well. Just fine. Where's my fucking money?
Where's money?
Yes.
The audio is rather low, but I hear, "Where's my effing money?"
Boy, the bike. Where's my money? I want my money. Where's my money?
No, but we had spoken.
Where's my fucking money? Where's my fucking money? I'm gonna ask you one more time. Where's my fucking money?
It's okay.
No. Where's my fucking money?
It's okay. Let me get it out.
No. Where's my fucking
Let me
money?
get it out. No cause for violence.
Where's my fucking money?
No cause for violence.
Huh?
Let me just get it out. Man to man.
Where's my fucking money?
Let me get it out.
Get it out.
Bad move, by the way. You never ask for things too many times. It's not a power move, if you know what I mean there.
I want all my motherfucking money.
He's talking too much,
I
isn't
want
he,
all of it.
Jonathan?
I want all of it. I want all my fucking money because I'm tired. I gave your motherfucking ass. That's why I slapped the shit out of your ass. I'm tired of you. I told your ass to fucking bring me a fucking new bike or bring me my money. I don't know who the fuck you think you are.
No,
I don't no. I'm not talking. I don't know who the
Nobody.
fuck. I don't know who the fuck you think you are. I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but you need to stop doing this to Americans. You think you can fucking fuck over foreigners?
I cannot.
You think you can fuck over foreigners?
Not even Ugandans.
No.
I don't want to fuck around.
You
Oh,
owe
this is Uganda, huh?
770,000 shillings. I want my fucking money.
One
You
of
can
those
have your
people?
bike back because you didn't put the fucking bike together right. It's a piece of shit. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to fucking hear anything.
Okay,
I want my
here's the thing.
fucking bike. And here's the
okay.
no. I want my
It's
motherfucking
okay.
money.
It's okay.
Give me my money.
It's okay. Let me speak as well.
No.
Well,
No
my,
speaking. Just give me
video's
my
gonna get
money.
demonetized for all
And
this
that's
cussing.
it. We don't have. There's no more conversation. Now give me my
Why
money.
does he sound like he's from
Give
the
me my money.
UK?
And if you don't have the cash, mobile money.
Yeah,
my
the
fucking money.
Ugandan sounds very English.
Let's see what you got now. Let's see what you got.
British, I guess.
That's 150.
I guess that's how he was able to begin to scam people to begin. He sounded
Right, that's a good point.
Affected perhaps this English accent and proceeded
Interesting.
to give people
Very-
crappy.
Very intelligent guy. He noticed, okay, if I perfected accent that makes people feel more familiar and at home, I can get more interesting. Yeah, that would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And what do you have to say about the reaction of the person getting the bike? I don't.
I think
Not-
he's just going to an emotional feel rather than functionality because, again, like you said, why is he saying it so many times? The video is also long. It looks like he's just repeating himself throughout the video. It's like he wants him to feel or suffer what he felt or suffered. And it's a bit weird. It's a little bit feminine to me as well. I mean, just say
100%.
your stuff. For the first 2 minutes, you said it. Wait You tell them you're not leaving until I get my money. That's it.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
it. You don't
So,
need
like-
to keep going around in circles.
Yeah, interesting. There's interesting. There's one principle. I'm probably going to do a review of this book. It I forget the name now of the book, but it's a collection of aphorisms or maxims, right? Just a collection of little sayings by my man that I forget his name now. I'm very forgetful today. But one of the things is, a very simple one about never say no twice. It's similar to what we're talking about. Don't say things, but especially no. Especially no. If you mean no, somebody asks you something and you say no, don't repeat yourself, right? You know what I mean, right? Especially in
Yeah.
one looks at in the context of certain kinds of relationships as well. Don't say no twice. When you say have to say no and then no again, you're already lost.
Yeah, because it means you're reprocessing. You're going back to the drawing tables every time you engage with that stuff. You say it once, and that's it.
That's it. Never say no twice. So let's continue. And then we'll begin to land the plane here. Okay. Let's see what happens. This guy.
Where are we
actually has
landing the
money.
plane? In Uganda?
We're landing the plane in Uganda. This guy actually has money in his pocket. Do you think it's enough money? You want to bet?
I don't think it's enough money. I don't think he'd be dumb enough to bring all the money with him in one go.
Okay, let's see. And I bet a lot of people's feelings got all in the upper. First of all, the guy who got scammed, shout out to him. But his feelings are all in a bind here, and he feels, like a cage or a trapped animal in a foreign place. But still, the rules of power and the rules of negotiation, the rules of getting ish done, he's violating all kinds of rules. You don't repeat yourself. You don't act like this, right?
Yep, and then you don't beat people up and record it because people might try to deport you.
Yes, number one, but also, especially in a culture like this, you don't know who people know.
Yes, right? Exactly.
Because
who knows?
You don't know who
this
people
accent,
know.
This could be a politician's son or some weird thing like that. They will come for you.
Exactly. In the West, generally speaking, you see low-level people, you can generally just treat them as low-level people. But in a society, again, where things are more nepotistic and tribalistic, if that low-level guy is the uncle or the son of some blah, 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 it can, people can feel all kinds of things about it. It could come back to you. But just a little lesson, when you get scammed in Africa, still follow the rules of power.
This is 210.
90 more left.
Mobile, you owe me another 500,000. Mobile mail me my motherfucking money.
It's okay. We're speaking man.
No. It's no man to man. I want the money.
Yes, it is okay. It is okay. See, I'm not going to complain about slapping me. I deserve it. Fully deserve it. Here's the thing. We spoke over the phone.
I don't want to hear none of that shit, or I'm gonna slap you again. Give me the fucking money. Give me all my money. Because I don't want to hear all that, guys. You're not smarter than me. Okay, you're not fucking smarter than me. Give me all my motherfucking money, or I'm gonna slap your ass again. You got some money on your mobile money, my fucking money.
I don't have any money on my mobile.
To be honest, I think this is a failure American.
You're around here fucking scamming.
Can't argue or think.
You're around here fucking scamming people. Yes, you did. You're.
Well, yeah, he obviously can. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually think this is a low-level American who went to an African country as a passport brother. Well, actually, I didn't know this. It's in his channel, and he really can't
part is kind of funny too. Yeah, I just thought about the fact that he's actually getting a bicycle. If you're in Africa, don't get a bicycle, get a motorbike. Okay. Yes. And
it's just
before you go to Africa, okay, make sure that you're not going to be ever in a situation where you're needing a bicycle. But anyways, and if you do need a bicycle, make sure that, hey, you got your bicycle guy who gets you
Yep.
bicycles, and he knows the guys where they're coming straight from the container in China, blah blah blah. That's how you get ish done, right? You don't go to somebody you don't know, blah, blah, doing bicycle stuff and then
Yeah.
slapping and repeating yourself over and over again, sounding like
And
you're single.
not letting the
Go
man
ahead.
finish his points. I mean, look, just that's how you deal with things. Is you let the man finish his points and you see if it makes sense or not. But you see, I think he's afraid. He's trying to use his whole power intimidation because he thinks the guy's going to pull something over his head. So he's trying to protect himself at the same time. He just admitted that the other guy's smarter than him. When he said, "You're not smarter than me," it's like, oh, why are you saying that? Like,
Total everything reeks of insecurity that he's doing. Just not a good move. So basically, we were talking about what it looks like on the level of the man on the ground, and so far we have said that at least the way that this guy is taking care of it is not the way you should go, right? Presumably, if you get scammed.
yeah,
We've talked about
No,
many
I got
different
scammed.
aspects. You got scammed, or
I
maybe that
resolved it
they.
differently.
How did you? Well, maybe we'll save that for another video.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
do
save
that
it for another
definitely.
video. We'll talk about, because it is a worthwhile topic in the sense that it cuts across many things. Okay, haggling, negotiation, soft skills of all kinds. With this particular situation where you're in a foreign country, different kinds of rules, no bureaucracy or standardizations, and so on and so forth. How do you operate there? And if you can operate there, you can operate anywhere, right? That's the idea. You can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. So we're saying, even though we're not going to go to Lagos, Nigeria, but we know, we're just kind of giving it. But if you can make it in Nigeria, therefore you can make it anywhere. So I think it's a
Yeah,
good.
and also there's another point. Yeah, when you're in a foreign country where things are nepotistic, do not handle people willy-nilly. You do not know who you're handling. You do
Yes.
not know who they know and who and when they will come for you, because they will come for you. So just don't willy-nilly handle people any way you want. This is
Yeah,
not a
because
centralized nation, right?
the system is not going to support you. There is no system. You're not going to be like,
You're
oh,
wasting it.
I'm going to sue you, or you're this or that. I'm going to go run to the cops to protect. It's like, no, if this guy knows the local police, whatever, maybe the local police, constable or whomever is the guy that runs this whole bicycle scam. Maybe the whole bicycle scam is run by the local boss. You don't know that.
Not even maybe. It definitely is. Maybe not in this particular case, but many other situations, the police are the ones running these games.
Yes, 100%. Police, paramilitary groups, and other kinds of things like that. So over the years, you learn. One thing O'Shea says, and the reason I keep on bringing O'Shea because, this is a Ugandan video. It was kind of funny. And the guy's British accent is pretty good. Pretty good. Now, you don't want to go to Africa without skills and resources and without a plan. Okay? And that's an aside, but it seems like this particular gentleman was lacking perhaps all three. Okay? He did not really have a plan, didn't have the skills or the resources. Resources don't necessarily only have to be money. Resources could be a network of people. Yes, especially in a situation where things are nepotistic. People spend much further. In other words, it's a wrong, silly little sentence. In other words, the currency of people is a whole lot more valuable in places where people are, doing nepotistic things, where people are tribal, where people are, quote unquote, in a FE culture, right? When people are in that extroverted feeling culture, right? Where it's less bureaucratic, you are going to need people, and you want to go there with those kinds of people resources and not single-handedly going around slapping somebody, because you're going to slap the wrong person.
Yep. I mean, even when you speak to the homeless man begging money from you, you don't just tell them no. You tell them, not today, maybe tomorrow. You see, there's that FE culture all around. And the homeless man actually accepts that. And if you tell him just no, he's going to be like, huh, that's strange. So that extroverted feeling culture really does go through the whole plane. It's this kind of belief in some future happenstance. It will happen. Because things do take slower to kind of get done in certain kinds of ways. So
100%, 100%, 100%. Yes. So we are here at the position of the man on the street. We have looked at this whole thing about extroverted feeling and how it relates to what we've already previously established, which is tribalism. You and my brother, me and my blood, right? When you go to the lady at the DMV, you should be able to tell her, hey, you know, we're from the same blah, blah, blah. And she stamps your form. That's how things operate over there, right? And when you look at it from a situation where there is more, shall we say, order and systems and standardization, it is corrupt. So Africa is corrupt and Africans are corrupt when you look at corruption as taking the particular shape that we've looked at, right? Because we started out this whole thing by saying, oh, you know, corruption could be this for you and corruption could be that for me. But no, we broke it down to, hey, look, this is what it is. In one system, you have a bureaucracy. In the other system, you have nepotism, decentralization, and so on and so forth. And both sides are always looking to the other side and saying, guys in Africa are like, that it's not working for. You know, if the nepotism is not working for you, like, I wish I had the DMV where there was a form A15 and I follow the rules, and then there is the standardization of the prices, and I can push the button and I say, if I click this thing here, it gets delivered tomorrow at this price. I wish. And then when we are over here in the West with all the bureaucracy and all that kind of stuff, we go, crap, I wish I was in a place that was more decentralized and where I could just make my own deals and so on and so forth. The libertarian dream, right? So it's never quite as simple as we may make it seem. So when I say Africa is corrupt and Africans are corrupt, it's not a question of just the government. It is 100% true if you look at corruption through the correct lens, which is the lens which we just gave you. And there is no other way you can kind of wiggle your way out of it, right? It's not some kind of a curse from, you know, no, it's just is a stage, a mode, a shape that the society is in relative to the other society.
Yeah. And shout out to everyone who might want to visit an African country. First of all, when you arrive at the airport, don't get into a taxi, get an Uber. Taxis is where you're going to first get scammed. You know, you get into the taxi, then the guy starts saying after 5 minutes, you know, it's far. You already agreed on the price, mind you. And then that farness increases the price even more. Just get in the Uber, it's cheaper and it's standard. And I think right now what's happened is there's all these American companies are there, so you can still get all the American stuff. You just have to pay American prices. And you can feel more secure in the products. But you have to have your eyes open. You can't go around trusting some random street vendor to get you a bike. Because why a bike? A bike, a car, or a motorbike, these are assembled products. They don't usually always come fully assembled, especially if it's like a truck or something. So you need to make sure you trust the people who assemble it. And like you said, in Africa, things are still crazy. You have to have the right dealer for everything, even your car checks for your servicing. Some dealers or servicing garage will just steal your stuff from your car. So you just got to have your eyes open.
Yep. All right. And with that, we are out, ladies and gentlemen.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come get it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising. rising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.